what isn't yet, but soon will be, another episode of Ben's Cooking Tutorials. Now this week we're going to kick things off with something really simple, extremely fast, and versatile enough to suit anybody's taste. All you really need is one spoon, one knife, and one pot, and you can get this going. This is the 5-minute chili. Now I can hear you sitting there thinking to yourself, Ben, 5 minutes, that's ridiculous. Well, that's ridiculous! Because I'm here to show you how it's possible. I've got a couple of tricks up my sleeve, and I'm willing to share one or two of them along the way. So let's get going. Right, so time-saving tip number 1, do all your prep ahead of time. Now this took me several hours to do, but several moments to lift into frame, so it doesn't really count. Now the beauty of this meal is that you can replace almost any single component with a similar ingredient, and it will still work. Starting out with the aromatics, we've got 2 finely diced brown onions, 1 finely diced red onion, and 1 finely diced green capsicum. These 2 at the front, mainly chosen for their colour. Now, onto the protein. I've come to a point in my life where I have opinions about supermarket ground beef, and I'd never personally recommend you getting any. So it's a great time to get out there and talk to your local butcher and get some quality meat. I've pre-ground my own mince so I can control the fat content. Here I've gone for about a 70 to 30% ratio. Now over here, we've got our pork product. This is pan cheddar. What you can use is Kaiser flesh, speck, streaky bacon. If you want a vegetarian version of this dish, this is the point where you go and ignore everything I just said and soak chickpeas for a day before making your own video. If you want a pescatarian version, then onto the filler. Now what we've got here is half a tin of strained corn, a whole tin of black or red kidney beans, liquid still in. You use this to thicken the sauce later, and 1 whole tin of peeled tomatoes. I use whole peeled because Costco doesn't sell diced. Finally, for the most important part, the flavour. Now at the end of the day, you know yourself and your taste better than I do, so you can change this however you want. Part of becoming a good home chef is learning to taste your food as you cook it and adjust the seasoning based on that. But it's probably not going to be as good as what I have here, because I've pre-ground my own spice mix. So I've ground up a couple of Pasilla and Ancho chilies. They're Mexican chilies that are low in heat but really high in flavour. They have earthy, chocolatey tones that bring a lot of complexity to the dish. Next, I've added in a little bit of dried coriander, a little bit of paprika, and some cumin that looks like coriander because I ran out of cumin. Later on, you'll be adding a little spoonful of apple cider vinegar, and you'll also be deglazing with a beer. Now it's important to choose a beer that complements the flavour profile of your dish. That's why I've gone for something that's dark, rich and full-bodied. You'll also be adding enough black pepper, so at one point you think to yourself, no, that has to be too much black pepper. And salt. Salt, 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 salt. Don't ever let anyone tell you how much salt to use. That is between you and God. So enjoy making that decision on your own. Now if you missed all that, and all you can think about is what kind of a sad person grinds up their own chili powder, don't worry, it'll get written down. You'll be able to find it on the COVID Lowdown website, because I've only got 5 minutes here and I can't be wasting time. So let's start by building the foundation of this dish. You take the pan cheddar and you want to fry it up on a medium-high heat. Cook it to a point where you've rendered off all the fat without burning any of the flesh. Once it's gotten golden crispy and there's a nice layer of fat in the bottom of the pan, set aside any thoughts of later life doctor visits, because this is liquid gold and we are building the rest of this dish on top of that. Kill the heat and remove the pork with a slotted spoon, set aside till later. Turn the heat back up and get the pot close to smoking because it's time to add in the brown onions. Now what we're aiming for here is to get the onions to the stage beyond caramelization just before burning. Now this can take a little bit of time, which is where time-saving tip number 2 comes in. Use the editing process to speed up the cooking process. What should take about 10 minutes goes by in the blink of an eye. Once the onions have turned a deep amber colour, you want to kill the heat again and pour in a tablespoon of brown sugar. Using the residual heat of the pan, you want to work fast, stirring the sugar in and making sure it melts and coats everything. This can burn really easily and we don't want that. Again, remove with a slotted spoon and set aside. If you've done it correctly, it should clump together all in a bowl like melted candy. At this point, if you look in the bottom of the pan, you should notice a nice little layer of brown toasty goodness building up. This is called fond, and it equates to pure flavour. You are now a cultivator of fond. Your only mission in life is to build up that layer of fond. The more fond, the more life you have. So that's where we start browning the beef. You want to be doing this in batches, so you don't want to crowd the pan. Also don't want to be stirring it too much. We're not really trying to cook the beef through at this point. We're just trying to get that colour on it and get that layer of fond forming at the bottom there. Again, set aside. It's now time to make your neighbours jealous and release that fond. So grab the beer, and with the heat on medium-low, pour half the bottle and deglaze, stirring and scraping at the sides with your spoon, trying to get up all that fond you've just spent so long trying to get. Just as it starts to bubble and thicken that little bit, you want to be adding in the capsicum and the red onion, crushing the garlic as well. Stir it all through. It's not going to take very long, but you just want it to thicken up a little bit and start to get the vegetables going translucent. After that happens, you add in the tomatoes. As soon as this starts to bubble, you just throw everything else in. Absolutely everything else that I've mentioned. Nobody cares. Everything else in that pot. Beans, corn, spice mix, meat, candied onions, vinegar, rest of the beer. Stir that shit up. Oh, did I mention stock yet? Well, time-saving tip number 3. Surprise ingredient. Chicken stock or vegetable stock, 1 cup. Mix that shit in. Stir, 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 stir. Now stop. Listen to your food. What is it telling you? Well, who am I to argue with my food? So you want to be grabbing a lid and then putting it in the oven that you've obviously preheated to 130 degrees. You want to be leaving it in there for the next 2.5 hours. Taking it out about halfway through to give it a stir and a taste. So it should be looking pretty good at this point, but we want it to be better. We want it to be thicker, and besides, we've got time to spare. So we're going to whack it back into the oven that we've cranked up to 180 degrees for another 20 minutes, with no lid on. Pull that shit out, whack in the bowl, don't worry about cooling it. Oh yeah, cheese, which I forgot to buy, yogurt, fresh coriander, boom, 5-minute chili.